cleared its first major hurdle in Congress. The Senate's Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee, also known as HELP, approved its bill yesterday. It requires businesses with 25 employees or more to offer health insurance or pay $750 a year per full-time worker to the federal government. Individuals would be required to obtain the coverage. The bill would also create an insurance exchange where individuals and small businesses could purchase health insurance, and that exchange would include a government-run plan that would compete with private insurers. And our guest host today, Chris Markowski, our watchdog on Wall Street, is chomping at the bit to talk about this. So where do we even begin?
Not enough time. Well, that was just the Senate version. The House version is even longer. It's over 1,000 pages long. Started going through it a couple of days ago. I'm not even close yet. In the House bill, they've got everything for providing for farmers markets and bike paths and all these things that quite honestly are unnecessary. The House bill actually...
But why do you think they're unnecessary?
Well, I just don't think they belong in a health care bill. I think that they're great things. I think they're wonderful things. I just don't think they should become a part of a health care bill. We're trying to provide health care for all Americans. I think most of our listeners would agree. I mean, who wouldn't raise their hand and say we need to have health care reform here in the United States?
Absolutely. Everybody agrees on that. The funny thing is, though, in a recent poll, USA Today, people want the health care plan. They just don't want to pay for it.
Well, that's the issue that we're going to face right now. I believe that the bills that are being put forward are jobs killers. I deal with a lot of small business owners all around the country. They're my clients, and they're frightened. They're scared. They want to expand their business, but they do not know what their costs are going to be. They don't know what it's going to cost them to hire a new worker, especially if the government's forcing them to pay for health insurance.
Okay, and we should make the point that because what this bill is saying is if a small business makes over $250,000, then they have to provide medical coverage for their employees.
If not, in the Senate bill, they're going to pay $750 per employee if they have 25 or more. The House bill, it's 8% of their entire payroll.
Okay, but you know, a lot of times, and I think one of the most commonly asked questions when people land a job, and a lot of people looking for work right now is, okay, you got a job, great, but are you covered? Do you have benefits? Isn't it a responsibility for an employer to take care of their employees and offer some sort of coverage?
Well, there's a cost of hiring each and every individual worker. There's a cost for, you bring somebody on board, there's their salary, there's the FICA payments you got to make, and then there's also the health care insurance. Sure, I know it'd be great for all employers to be able to provide this, but if they're going to do that, they're going to have to cut your salary as well. Businesses will pay what they can afford to hire somebody.
Okay, and I mean, this is a topic we could definitely talk about for...
And speaking of which, plenty more to come here on the show, though. Coming up tomorrow, you want to tune in. We got a style expert in the house who's going to show you how to redo your dorm room or your kids' dorm room on the cheap. And also, we are going to be hearing from the Green River Ordinance. They're right over there warming up right now. And there they are, guys. Wave to the camera. All right, they had to get up real early this morning. I don't even know if they went to bed. They're typical band guys. They were probably out partying until, 5 in the morning.
And if you have any questions, specific questions for Chris Markowski, hey, good Thursday morning to you. It is July 16th, 2009. Welcome to the Daily Buzz. I'm Holly Hannula. We have a very special guest host today. I want to welcome Chris Markowski, who's filling in for Tia. Doing a great job.
Good morning. Here's what's on tap this morning. Supreme Court nominee Sonia Sotomayor is gearing up for day number 4 of Grilling on Capitol Hill. We're going to show you what she's up against for today's
story this morning is the murder investigation of the Florida couple known for adopting special needs children. Now, new today, authorities are charging an 8th person. We're up to 8 arrests now. Pamela Long Wiggins in the slaying. Last night, Sheriff David Morgan spoke out. Take a listen.
Taking into custody Miss Pamela Long Wiggins, and she will be charged with accessory after the fact for felony murder. And again, tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. we'll hold a joint press conference with the State Attorney's Office and the Escambia County Sheriff's Office. We will fill you in on the specifics of these charges and Miss Wiggins.
Okay, so again, to review some of the facts that we know so far, because it just keeps getting more confusing. Pamela Long Wiggins, she'll be charged with accessory after the fact and felony murder, as you heard the sheriff say. Now, Wiggins is allegedly a family friend of the ringleader of this entire crime, and she also supposedly rented a property to him as well.
What's striking about this, though, is these things were pulled off without a hitch. I mean, these are perfectly executed. The only thing that they screwed up on, and Holly's been doing a great job investigating this, is there was a remote security access to shut off the cameras there, and they screwed that up. That was the only thing that I guess Right, he's giving them all the clues.
Yeah, well, there was one suspect whose job it was to turn off these cameras because they were aware that there were surveillance cameras around the property, and thankfully for investigators, unfortunately for them, it was the perfect crime until someone made the mistake of not switching off these cameras. And since they have the surveillance footage, police have been able to get so many breaks in the case. They've been able to identify
the van that
people.
we just saw there.
Yes.
And the whole repainting of the van that was one of the alleged murderers' father tried to repaint the van and hide that part of the evidence.
Now, Holly, it's true that the Drug Enforcement Agency is getting involved with this now as well.
Yes, and this part of the case, this aspect is just another question as to why now is the DEA getting involved in this. Earlier this week, Sheriff Morgan, we just saw him on tape, had been saying, look, this case is so frustrating because we answer one question and then there are a number of other questions that arise, and now the DEA is involved, and they aren't saying why as of yet, but like the sheriff had said, 10 a.m. today, there's going to be a press conference.
And you know, you hate to speculate, but you wonder the contents of that safe, because it looked at first like possibly just a simple robbery, because this is a well-to-do man, Billings, Bert Billings, and you know, they were thinking possibly it just was a bunch of money in a safe type of thing, but now it appears possibly drugs involved. And you were saying, Chris, this morning that this
happening more and more.
You've seen this in your area where people are going in targeting known drug dealers in order to grab the goods.
Like I said, it's like this. It's all speculation. There was a tragic story where I live in the west coast of Florida where a young pregnant woman at 19, 20 years old break into her house. She's shot. She's killed. They tried to save the baby. The baby died. Turns out they're finding all sorts of baggies and scales in there, and it seems like these things are happening more and more around the country where
with
bad guys are targeting the bad guys.
Yeah. And this case, real quick, talking about healthcare reform.
Yeah, and Dawn from Connecticut is talking about the fact that she works for a trucking company, and the owner is happy that he's keeping 50 people employed, but he doesn't necessarily cover health care for all those people.
Well, there's going on here in the email saying that if he doesn't cover health care and he's going to have to pay that 8% based upon their entire payroll, he's going to go out of business. He's going to have to shut his doors. And this is what I'm hearing from so many small businesses all across the country. They're scared. And this is
Sonia Sotomayor's Supreme Court confirmation hearings will take an interesting turn today.
CNN's Samantha Hayes has the latest from Washington.
So obviously a lot of issues going on. It's not just about the things that we've heard about. Chris, you were saying that there's a lot of things that have not been covered by the media, for instance, things about property rights.
Well, I'm a dork and I actually watch these things over the course of the day. You know, my biggest concern, I'm glad that they went into the gun rights yesterday and they had some questions in regards to that, but my big thing with the Supreme Court is property rights. We do not have any freedom here in this country if the government can step in and take what you own.
Eminent domain.
Eminent domain is a big problem. We saw that happen up in Connecticut where a little old lady, the government sets in and says, you know what, we want that piece of property because we want to build a mall there. And it's going to raise property tax levels and we're going to collect more money. You know what? They never built that mall and they took the lady's property.
And they shouldn't have been able to take it in the first place.
So what happens to the lady?
Well, she's got to go find another house, and that's the problem.
She's out of luck.
Property rights. Good morning. Trying to fill in for the very lovely Kia Malone, not so lovely Chris Markowski. A glitch from Visa showed many cardholders, well, you know what? They owed more than $23 quadrillion. $23 quadrillion. We're going to break it down for you in about 4 minutes.
Alrighty, checking the Daily Buzz inbox real quick, talking about health care reform. Simon in Dallas says, I don't think small business health care change will do any good. I witnessed firsthand many employers who hire mostly illegal aliens and don't have them on an official payroll. This is big in the South. If the government can't even enforce our border and employment laws, I'm sure this will just be one more law for small business to skirt.
We are a kind and benevolent society here in the United States. Now, if somebody shows up at the emergency room and they need care, we're going to provide for it. I just think we need to send a bill to these countries.
Good Thursday morning to you. It is July 16, 2009. We're inching closer and closer to the weekend. We hope we can start your Thursday morning off right. Welcome to the Daily Buzz. I'm Holly Hanula, and alongside me is Chris Markowski, special guest host today.
Oh, not that special. Good morning, everybody. This is what's on tap. Supreme Court nominee Sonia Sotomayor is gearing up for day number 4 for her grilling on Capitol Hill. We're going to show you what she's up against for today's confirmation hearing.